Welcome. This is an introduction to cardiology for paramedics, an applied differentiation instruction plan. My name is Matthew Hess. I'm a graduate student at Post University. The objectives for this presentation will be to overview the educational context of the initial paramedic curriculum, plan and rationale for differentiated instruction, review the pre-learning, during learning, and post-learning activities, review the content, process, and product of the differentiated instruction plan, discuss two strategies for differentiated instruction, discuss future goals, and a summary. A cornerstone of the initial education curriculum for entry-level paramedics is cardiology. At the conclusion of this unit, learners will be able to interpret life-threatening cardiac dysrhythmias and conditions. Additionally, learners will be able to treat them in a timely manner, ultimately having the opportunity to save lives when seconds matter. In this introductory unit, learners will be exposed to cardiac rhythms for the first time. The learning objective for this unit will be to correctly identify parts of the ECG rhythm tracing and identify the varying types of cardiac rhythms. This unit will conclude with patient simulations where learners will assess and treat cardiac emergencies in small groups. For context, learners enrolled in this course have already been certified at the EMT basic level, and they have a variety of previous educational experiences. The average range of the learner is between 18 and 50, and they have a variety of educational experiences ranging from high school to undergraduate college experience. All learners have some ability to read and write English. The program is taught with a flipped classroom model where students are expected to review course material prior to each class, and that material is reinforced through a series of activities. When students begin the course, they each take a VAR questionnaire. The purpose of this questionnaire is to identify how the students learn best. Based on the responses to a series of questions, students will be able to identify their learning preference, whether that's visual, oral, reading, writing, or kinesthetic. There's an example of the question located here on this slide. Learners then share the results of these results with their instructor and read more about their learning style through independent research. The educator can then compile the data for the cohort and prepare the below activities to fit the needs of the learning group. The rationale behind this exercise is to substantiate the use of differentiated modalities for learning, whether that's visual, auditory, reading, writing, or kinesthetic. This is the foundation for differentiating the content of the curriculum. Learners should be provided with a variety of complexity levels, types of learning resources, different modalities to succeed in learning in the course. This activity is an introduction for learners to understand the variety of content that will be available to them while they learn through the unit. The pre-learning activity is designed to give learners multiple ways to engage with the lesson learning objectives prior to the start of class. To facilitate this, with differentiation in mind, students are provided with a variety of materials. This can include text from chapters, videos to watch online, and interactive games in which they can practice their cardiac interpretation skills. The publisher also has an audio file that allows the learners to listen to the chapters should they prefer to listen as opposed to read. The goal of providing these multiple means of content is to assess the unique learning needs for each student in the classroom based on the individual learning skills, interests, and learning styles. The VARC assessment has already identified these interests and learning styles. Seen here on the slide is an example of the pre-course material the student is offered. You can see the learning objectives for the unit are identified, a variety of reading assignments are supplied, links to the videos in which the student should review, and then also directions to create an account for the interactive game relating to cardiac rhythms. The during learning activity for this lesson will consist of a series of static cardiology stations where the learner is expected to identify a cardiac rhythm and voice their treatment plan. This activity is adapted from the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians and is also used as part of the licensing phase of their education. During this activity, the learner will be provided an ECG rhythm and pertinent patient information. Based on this interpretation and patient information, the student will be required to voice a treatment plan. The student will have 6 minutes to complete 4 interpretations. The scoring sheet is pictured here. This activity was chosen because it allows for engagement with the learning objectives in multiple ways. The student can use visual cues or write out a treatment plan to complete the exercise. To allow for the student to engage with the information in multiple ways, the patient information is provided verbally or in written format. Additionally, the preference on this activity will allow the instructor to group the class appropriately to tier their post-learning activity. Students who excel in this activity will be placed in one group, while students who demonstrate difficulty will be placed in another. It is the hope that students who require additional instruction will be provided that opportunity during the debrief of the post-learning activity. In this method, the class is tiered to the project and the post-learning activity, which we'll discuss in the next slide. The post-learning activity will require the learner to engage with a simulated patient experiencing a cardiac emergency and develop a treatment plan based on the patient's presentation. The learner will be required to work with a group of peers, and these groups will have been tiered and chosen based on your performance during learning activity. Students are scored based on their assessment ability and treatment plan for the patient. Pictured here is one of the pages of the medical assessment activity and project activity. The students have previously learned the medical assessment in a prior unit. Differentiation is present in this activity as learners are allowed to show their understanding in multiple methods. This includes demonstrating their knowledge through physical skill, directing a classmate to perform the skill, and thus solving the problem verbally and communally with their peers. The student is also able to write their response based on their actions in a patient care report. This activity is also considered the product for the unit as it considers all the items they have learned throughout the program and units thus far. One strategy used to differentiate content in curriculum is compacting. In this strategy, educators identify students' abilities and qualifications and differentiate study material for the learners. In the next stage, the educator identifies any skills or understandings that are covered in the material to which the student does not show mastery. Lastly, educators engage directly with the student's needs. In this instruction plan, the student is assessed for their learning style, provided multiple methods of engagement, and assessed for their ability. They are then tiered into groups to show competency. Differentiating process should be done in response to the learner's readiness, interest, and learning profile. In this instructional plan, readiness is engaged during the interactive activity, resulting in a tiering for their reflective activity and final product. The students' interests are common in that they desire to be licensed paramedics, the goal of the course. Lastly, the learning profile of the student is allowed to be expressed in multiple methods during the patient simulation. Products represent a student's extensive understanding and application of the learning objectives throughout a unit or duration of time. Products should allow for multiple ways to demonstrate this mastery. In this instructional plan, learners are allowed to show competency, building on the previous medical assessment unit and applying the new knowledge of cardiac emergencies into the patient simulation. Additionally, the students can show mastery with their physical skills or directing the actions of peers. Ultimately, the learner needs to show mastery of their knowledge of cardiac emergencies and timely treatment plans. Two differentiation strategies that can be added to this differentiated instruction plan are giving students as much responsibility for their learning as possible and engaging the students in talking about classroom procedures and group processes. Empowering students to partake in classroom management responsibility and participate in task design allows the learner to develop a sense of ownership in the program and foster a skill of independence. At the start of each day, learners are assigned their lab group for their product, and the first goal is to inspect their training equipment and ensure that it is in proper working order. Additionally, the group is required to appoint a team leader who will be responsible for the group of 4 to 5 students for the duration of the learning exercise. Throughout this process, the student will notify the instructor of supplies if they are low, and this helps at the administrative level with inventory monitoring and ordering responsibilities. Another strategy of differentiation that can be used in this educational context is engaging in exploring the rationale behind course policies and procedures. When learners understand the reasoning behind classroom expectations, they develop a sense of ownership in the class, and it fosters a sense of teamwork in achieving the group goal. Specifically in the EMS educational context, students have explained the reasoning behind the program structure. In the paramedic course, students are taught the didactic material first, followed by several months of hospital time, and then they finish with a field internship where they work alongside a preceptor in the pre-hospital environment. At the start of the course, the students are taught this progressive classroom model and the importance of reaching certain milestones to show competency. In several cases, students have said they want additional practice and time practicing skills or reviewing concepts before progressing to the next stage. This self-reflection demonstrates the students' ownership in their education and commitment to the course's progressive process. Additionally, some of the didactic portions can be stressful and seem over the top, but learners understand it is meant to prepare them for the next phase of their education. Knowing the path forward and how the group is going to get there will develop a collaborative learning environment among peers and faculty alike, as students and instructors all share in the same goal. One goal to accomplish in the coming year is to add another strategy to have learners complete their work or simulation early. These groups can be done early for a variety of reasons. This includes wanting to impress the instructor or simply for the satisfaction of finishing first. It can be best to have self-reflection strategies or exercises for the group to work on in the event they finish early. Another goal for differentiated instruction in the future is to allow for multiple methods of engaging with content for the first time, specifically working in a small group to review assignments before class time. A third goal for differentiated instruction in this educational context would be to create more methods of instruction for learners prior to class. This can include study sessions or mini lectures prior to each class day. Additional resources for this educational assignment can include SkillStat, an online cardiology study resource, an online tutoring service titled Medic Prep, and an online study program called Pocket Prep. All these allow for students to engage with the curriculum through testing questions, interactive graphs and charts, and leading simulated patient encounters online. Links to all these resources can be found in the reference section below. These tools will allow for educational staff to see other methods of instruction and build on our current teaching practices. In summary, the goal is to improve EMS education through differentiation by incorporating the practice of tiering learners into more appropriate groups before they are placed into simulated patient encounters. This practice will allow instructors to focus their efforts on students who need more challenging cases and slow down simulations to review concepts learners are struggling with. EMS educators should adjust the content process and product to accommodate the diverse needs, learning styles, and interests of their learners. This practice will allow for more inclusive and diverse groups of EMS students and ultimately a more diverse workforce that can better serve the communities we represent. It is a goal to address the needs of each unique learner, provide them with the tools they need to succeed in their EMS education, and make them competent pre-hospital providers who serve our communities and are more valuable citizens. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment or contact the content creator at the email address listed.